mistake I made was opening that black door. If I had left it shut, everything would have been fine. I'd have married Marcia, become a full professor, and had my name in all the scientific journals. Well, there's no use telling the story backwards, so first things first. The first thing being the grant I received to hunt for the city of the fire gods in Central America. Being a pilot, I rented a helicopter, and after filling out some paperwork and paying some bribes, I got the permissions I needed. I decided to make my base of operations in the tiny town of San Marcos. My research said that the city was someplace among the mountains in the area. I was working from a manuscript of an old Spanish monk, Brother Domingo, who had recorded the history of the local natives. According to his writings, the city was an evil place that was protected by a reclusive tribe of inbred, cannibalistic natives. Every day I flew over the mountains searching for 2 months, but I saw nothing. In the town, I was charitably looked upon as the crazy gringo who flies to nowhere. I was getting pretty discouraged, so one day I decided to forget my troubles with a glass of tequila in the town's only cantina. 3 glasses in, I called for another drink.
I'm sorry, senor, but the waiter, he's busy.
Are you kidding? No one's been busy in this town since Columbus rode ashore.
This is very true, senor, but I have paid the waiter to go somewhere else and appear busy.
Great. So no drink. Do you have a reason for peeing on my party?
I am so sorry, senor, but I think you will be interested in what I have to show you.
He reached into his jacket pocket and produced a stone statue, very old. It appeared to be a human. It was weather-worn and its finer features were indistinct. It was carved out of volcanic rock in the style of the oldest known Mayan works. I asked him where he got it.
Well, that is easily answered. You see, my grandfather, he gave it to me when he died.
Okay, so where did he get it?
Oh, senor, that is a bit of a harder question to answer.
Look, if you came here to play games
No, senor. This is why I sent away the waiter, you see, so we could talk, how you say, confidentially.
All right, then. Let's talk confidentially. Confidentially, where did that little statue come from? And how did your grandfather come to have it?
Yes, this is from the montañas. Excuse me, senor, mountains.
The whole damn country is mountains.
True, yeah, you see, how is the important thing, senor. You see, my grandfather, he was a hunter, and once he stalked a jaguar high into the mountains there, yes. Some savage natives, they followed my grandfather. They attacked him, yes. He was wounded and he escaped. He climbed a great cliff, and on the other side, he saw una ciudad muerta, the dead city.
A dead city?
Far below him. He tried to climb at it, but then he fell, and for 3 days he lay unconscious. When he recovered his senses, somehow he found his way out. He did not know how, but he staggered back towards the village and was found in the jungle crawling on his hands and knees. He clutched these statues, saying over and over, La Puerta Negra, La Puerta Negra.
The black door. What does that mean?
I do not know, senor. My grandfather, he couldn't remember nothing after his fall. He lived for 2 years, but then he was never strong enough to go back hunting again. So he kept this little statue close to him, always, because he said it saved his life from the savages.
But the lost city, nobody ever tried to find it again?
No, senor. It belonged to the dead. And, they might be angry if you came to disturb them. But the people here, these people, they are very suspicious. And, but not me, senor. I am not suspicious. I am a good capitalist. And I wish to go to the lost city, so I come to you.
Do you know its location?
I believe so. You see, my grandfather described to me the mountain. He says where it was hidden, and it's roughly about 3 days from here.
3 days walk, that's about 50 or 60 miles. What direction?
What direction? See, that is the most important question, no?
Okay, I get it now. How much, Mr. Capitalist?
Just a mere pittance for you, a rich green Yankee like yourself. $1,000 and, oh yes, and one half of the treasure.
What treasure?
Oh, senor, there must be a treasure, or why else would you come to see this lost city of the dead?
Because I want to be a full professor and marry a beautiful girl whose father is the head of the archaeology department, and live happily ever after. You see, I'm not a good capitalist.
Yes, I understand, senor. So, of course, you say the American dream, yes?
All right, $1,000 if you actually guide me to the lost city, and half the treasure if there is any. But if we don't find the city in a week, you get nothing.
Oh, no, senor, it's perfect. Yes, this is a deal.
The waiter finally got tired of pretending to be busy, and we sealed the bargain with a glass of tequila. Or 4. The next morning, Pedro Ramirez, my guide and resident capitalist, joined me in the helicopter. He directed me to fly to the southeast. I did, flying as low as I dared over the mountains and jungle valleys. We've come more than 60 miles, Pedro, and no sign of the lost city you promised me.
No. Si, senor. There, to the left. This is the mountain my grandfather described.
Are you crazy? That's the cone of an extinct volcano.
See, and the lost city is inside the dead volcano.
How could that be?
I don't know, senor. I wasn't there when it was built.
Ah, very funny. But I guess it's called the City of the Fire God, so why not in a volcano? Well, I've never flown into a volcano, so here goes nothing.
Oh, no, Chihuahua.
We lifted high in the air over the top of the dead volcano and came in over a deep circular valley grown up with jungle. But there, in the center of the jungle, was a group of stone buildings dominated by a vast, ruined temple.
You see, senor, my grandfather, he was right. Oh, senor, this place is rich with treasure. I feel it.
Well, even if it isn't, this is one of the biggest archaeological finds in the history of Central America. We're going in. We'll sit down on that level spot right in front of the temple. We landed in front of the old temple. For a moment, we just sat there, taking it all in. The stone towers, the ancient carvings, and the massive walls. Then we climbed out. We were both armed with pistols, just in case we ran into the same crowd that attacked Pedro's grandfather. We took flashlights and a tool bag so that we could explore the inside of the temple. Aboard the helicopter, I had a case of dynamite in case any blasting was necessary. But this was just supposed to be a preliminary survey, so I left it behind. Pedro and I found ourselves on a big stone plaza with the partially ruined temple in front of us. The entrance was flanked by 2 tremendous stone carvings, like something from Egypt. Human statues with heads that were dog-like. They looked shockingly like Anubis, the Egyptian god of the dead, but I couldn't imagine what they would be doing here.
Senor, these statues with the face of a dog, I do not like them.
Yes, they are rather odd, but I'm more interested in those designs carved into the rocks above them.
Designs? They show, wait, the moon, this is a new moon, the old moon, yes? The carvings of the moon, there were them all over the front of the temple too.
Yeah, it's most unusual as most of the old civilizations in the area worship the sun.
Si, senor, this is true, but what worries me is, why did the men who made the statues put the heads of dogs on them?
Perhaps they represent the servants or some sort of companion to one of their gods. It's hard to tell. These markings seem more like Egyptian than anything I've seen in the Americas before. It was dark inside the temple, but our flashlights gave us enough light to see that vast stone pillars supported a roof high above us. We moved along a lengthy corridor. We came to a central rotunda that was brightly illuminated by sunlight through a round hole coarsely cut in the roof.
Hey, look, senor. So, look, gold. Look, 12, no, 13 statues, and each of them made in gold. I mean, Molly, we are rich like you American movie stars, no?
Pedro was right. Arranged in a circle in the middle of the rotunda were 13 gold statues about 7 feet tall. They were all human figures with dog-like heads, and they were all looking at the same spot on the floor. Each statue had a carved stone basket at its feet, and each one was full of uncut gemstones. Obviously, these statues were worshipped as gods, not companions, and the gems were given in tribute. Pedro, have a good look at these statues. Shine your light on this one.
Ay, madre mia, again with the head of the dog. It's like the old legends, no? You know, the dog men, you know, the Indians used to speak of before the Europeans came.
Strange, they're all dog-headed statues and all their eyes are focused on one spot, where the sunlight falls from that hole in the ceiling. Look, there seems to be something carved on the floor. Let's see what that is.
Ah, senor, this is crazy, no? A round black carving on the floor. It's almost like a, ¿cómo se dice? Globe.
Good Lord. Do you know what this is?
No, senor, I cannot guess.
It's the moon, carved on the floor in black basalt.
Ah, the moon. Yes, I see now. Yes, but something is wrong, don't you think?
You don't know the half of it. Because the formations carved here are not the ones ancient astronomers knew. Pedro, this 3,000-year-old carving represents the geography of something impossible. The artist who carved this would have had to have seen what the dark side of the moon looked like, which no human being had any knowledge of until 1959. The more I studied that round black carving, the more I was convinced it was an accurate map of the dark side of the moon. Inspecting the disc closely, we discovered something else. Around the rim was a series of crevices filled with tar. I began to dig the tar out, and under each crevice but one, we found a small basalt statuette, just like the one that Pedro had originally showed me.
Senor, look. The story of my grandfather, I told you, is true. The little statue, look. He fits just into this tiny hole on the rim of the disc, yes?
Yes, it does. The black door. This must be the black door that he talked about.
Sí, la puerta del negro, yes, the black door. But if it's a door, how does it open?
I don't know. Wait, suppose we stand each of these little statues upright like this, in these indentations.
Ah, yes. They fit tightly, like handles.
Handles and keys. Now if we push them, look, it's moving.
The black disc, it's turning. Oh, look, it's loose now. Wait, senor, lift it. There may be more treasure and gold and jewels.
There, it's open. There's a ramp leading down to the heart of the old volcano. We stood there staring down into the dark passageway. I didn't like the looks of it, but Pedro had gold fever. He thought there might be more treasure down there. I couldn't talk him out of exploring, so I went along. The tunnel sloped downward at a steep angle into the heart of the old volcano. As we descended, we came across broken pottery and bronze tools that littered the floor. There were strange carvings covering the walls. It spurred our curiosity until we came to a huge cavern whose walls were lined by a curious growth. We split up and began to search the chamber. After a few minutes, Pedro called to me.
Senor, look at this. It's very strange.
Yes, mushrooms, or something very much like mushrooms. Solid sheets of it lining the walls and ceiling.
No, senor, that is not what I meant. I mean, look here, to this little narrow crevice. Look, there's a room there. Come, shine your light and see.
What has got you so worked up?
Senor,
Skeletons.
Many skeletons, hundreds maybe, one upon another. Senor, this is not good, Santa Maria.
The room is full of human bones stacked like firewood. I can't make out the ones at the far end, but the ones I can see, those are tooth marks. They've been gnawed on by some large animal.
Oh, senor, let's leave here swiftly, yes. Let us return to the helicopter and take the treasure and go away from this evil place.
Pedro, these bones have been here thousands of years. The low levels of oxygen and light are the only thing that's kept them from turning to dust. Old bones are no cause for alarm.
Old or not, I do not like these bones. We should go.
It's okay, Pedro. Whatever happened here took place long before any Europeans ever set foot in the Americas. There's no way that anyone or anything could still... Unless...
Why? Why do you say this? What is it? You study so hard these mushrooms on the world. What are you thinking?
Well, these mushrooms certainly haven't been here for 1,000 years, and along here it looks to me as if big sections have been broken off. But broken off by who? What?
What are you saying, senor?
There's only one thing I know you can do with mushrooms. That's eat them.
Got a peyote, huh?
Pedro and I stood staring at each other. I was pretty sure something or somebody had recently been eating the mushroom-like fungus, and I was beginning to wonder what or who when we heard it from somewhere far down below us. Sounds like a dog, but there's no way a dog could survive down here for 1,000 years.
That is no dog. It's a demon.
Forget that superstitious nonsense. There's something living down here, as impossible as that may seem.
And if we don't leave, there is something going to be dying down here. Senor, please get the treasure and we can leave now.
Wait, I'm trying to figure out what we found here. What if those are not dog god totem poles upstairs? What if the statues are of people, but with heads of dogs? Then the howling is... Until that second, I hadn't realized the full significance of those statues. It was impossible. But what other answer was there? We headed to the surface, and as we did, I saw something coming up the tunnel. Something that formed a large white shape in the light of my flashlight. It was running, sometimes on all fours and sometimes on its hind legs. It growled hungrily, only hesitating when the light from our flashlights illuminated it. It stopped and fired on the approaching monster. It went down with a shriek like a wounded dog, only to be replaced by a pack of howling creatures.
Look, there's more of them. Run, senor! We must get out of here!
We didn't even stop to look at where we had shot. We just turned and ran up that long tunnel to the surface, and as we were hurtling through the black door, the things pursuing us began to howl in unison like a pack of hungry animals. As we ran out into the ruined temple, I understood at last what that black door was. It sealed the entrance to the underground world where they had been trapped by the indigenous people thousands of years ago. Pedro and I flung ourselves onto the great slab of black rock and tried to push it, but we couldn't move it. It was wedged open somehow, and we couldn't get it closed.
Senor, they will follow us at any moment. See, they are gathering down there, just beyond the light.
Yes, they obviously don't like light, but they're getting their courage up. We have to shut them in. We can't let those things loose, but we can't shut the black door. Wait, here, take my gun and keep them down there. I'll go to the helicopter and get the dynamite. We'll blow the mouth of that tunnel.
Are you loco, senor? I will surely die.
It took me less than 5 minutes to grab the case of dynamite and bring it back to the black door. I lit the fuse and shoved the whole case down into the black tunnel. Pedro and I ran as fast as we could to the helicopter and started the motor.
Oh, senor, the treasure and the jewels, we did not bring them.
We can get them after the tunnel is blown. You don't want to tangle with those dog-headed creatures, do you?
No, but senor, what are they? They must be demons, because they are surely not from this world.
Well, I agree with you. They're not of this world. But they're not demons.
That did it, senor. The tunnel is closed for good now.
The helicopter jumped 1,000 feet straight up just before the temple crashed in on itself. Then we watched from a box seat while the lost city of the fire gods crumbled into ruins. The dynamite blast had triggered an earthquake that shook the entire mountain.
Senor, the jewels, the gold, they are gone now under many tons of rock.
Yeah, and so are those creatures. Suppose they've gotten loose on the world after being caged underground for God knows how many years.
No, senor, I can't think only for a while that I was the richest man in the world. I owned a lost city full of gold and jewels, and now I have nothing.
Don't worry, Pedro. After things quiet down, we can bring back an expedition. We'll dig in the ruins. Jules will be there. You'll see.
See, this is true. I will be rich, yes, but myself, I want to have 3 automobiles and 12 silk shirts, and I will have service to everything. Ay, madre mía. No, look, senor. Vaquero is coming to life, and the actor is coming from the ground.
The dynamite. It must have opened up a fissure leading down to where the volcanic fires have been baked for thousands of years.
Oh, senora,
By the time we got 10 miles away, the entire mountain was blowing up in a vast fountain of fire and ash, with molten rock running down the sides of the cone. And in the heart of that inferno was the lost city of the fire gods, Pedro's treasure, and my reputation as a scientist. But we did stop a howling mob of nightmarish creatures from descending on our unprepared world. Well, that's the story. You probably read about that volcano that shook up Central America back in 1994 and destroyed the tiny town of San Marcos. Now you know what caused it. Me. Just so you know, I did pay Pedro the $1,000. After all, he did deliver a lost city. As for myself, I didn't get the girl. She was very sorry, but she met somebody else while I was south of the border. As to my position as a full professor, it seems the university wasn't real happy about me spending their grant money and not returning on the investment. They let me go. I guess they were just being good capitalists. I do all right, though. Nowadays, I fly eco-tourists around Central America during the day, and occasionally some packages across the border at night. So I guess I'm now a good capitalist too. Would you like to know my theory about those creatures? I'd say that several thousand years ago, Earth had some visitors, refugees you might call them. Some of them settled in Egypt, and some in Central America. They brought some highly developed architectural and scientific skills with them and settled down amongst the locals. They ruled for a while, worshipped as gods until they were disposed of by the locals because of their eating habits. In this case, the native priests managed to block them in behind that black door and gave themselves power by building a religion around the legends. After the natives died of disease brought by the Spanish, the dog people existed underground, living on mushrooms and on any creature that found its way into their lair. They kept their race alive, at least at some base level, until I showed up. They're all gone now, unless, of course, you believe all those news stories that come out of the West about dog men roaming the forests and highways. You know, Earth people don't go to the moon anymore. We're told that's because there's nothing up there. But I wonder if deep inside those tremendous craters, where there might still be a little warmth and thin air, if one of our astronauts didn't run into some moon people who look a lot like us, except for their heads.